Hello, everyone, and welcome back for our lunchtime conversation. So this conversation is with Daniel Lurie, who is the mayor of San Francisco. Daniel was born and raised in San Francisco. He majored in political science at Duke University and earned a master's in public policy from UC Berkeley's Goldman School. In 2005, shortly after he finished his master's degree, he founded and led Tipping Point Community, a pioneer in anti-poverty initiatives across the Bay Area. He also led the bid committee and the host committee for Super Bowl 50. Please join me in welcoming Mayor Lurie.
Oh boy. Oh, I know too many people in this room.
Okay, well, we'll just open it up to Q&A to start off.
Seriously. How you all?
So I'm really happy to have you here. We're both political scientists by training as undergraduates. I'm also happy.
I took a few classes in political science. You are the real deal.
You discovered there's something useful to do with your life. So, but also I grew up, like you, I grew up in the Bay Area. I love San Francisco, lived there for a while in the 1990s. Although I think living in San Francisco for a Stanford alum is far from unique. From what I hear, there's like 10,000 Stanford alumni living in the city of San Francisco. So I guess I'm not particularly special in having done that at some point. But I want to jump in and talk about sort of the policy initiatives and what you're doing in San Francisco. So a big part of your plan for San Francisco includes improving public safety, reducing disorder, addressing homelessness, the drug crisis. And those are challenging things. They're a big deal for the residents of the city. They're a big deal for the city's image. And frankly, they come with a lot of stereotypes too, because a lot of people think of those as being super intractable problems, either just in terms of getting people the help or the policies that they need. And sometimes people think San Francisco can't do the things that would be needed to be done. Yeah. It's a famously liberal city, and a lot of people sort of don't think San Francisco's up to the task. Yep. So I'm curious how you're approaching this.
Well, I think first off, I would say, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be with all of you. You know, we talk a lot about our progressive values in San Francisco, and we have them, and I lean into those. But frankly, there's nothing progressive about driving by or walking by somebody that is passed out on the sidewalk. Someone actually just brought up Fillmore Street, and I used to live right off of Fillmore Street. And this morning I was driving down Fillmore Street, and my team, the detail, the police officer, we saw somebody asleep on the concrete at 8 this morning. And we got out of the car and we checked on the person. There is nothing progressive about allowing somebody to sleep on the street and not able to do well. So we're focused on common sense solutions, getting people off the street and into treatment beds, recovery beds. We stood up 600 treatment beds last year in San Francisco. I made a promise on the campaign trail that we would stand up 1,500 shelter beds. And then I've said this a couple times, and people are like, don't talk about what you didn't follow through on. But I like to talk about what the campaign was, 1,500 beds. And then I got in the office, and my team, we realized standing up 1,500 just normal shelter beds is not appropriate. Getting someone that is addicted to fentanyl into a shelter is not going to help that person. So we want to stand up the right kind of beds. And the right kind of beds are recovery and treatment beds. So we have not done the 1,500 shelter beds, but we did do 600 recovery and treatment beds. So everyone in San Francisco believes in taking care of people. And what we were doing as a city was not taking care of people. We were letting people use on the street, die on our streets. 3 years ago, we had 850 some odd people die of overdose in San Francisco. The last 2 years, that's come down, but last year was still over 620. We're heading in the right direction, but there is nothing okay about those numbers. And I think everybody, the vast majority of San Franciscans believe that. Now, on the public safety front, we have made real strides. Crime last year was down 30% citywide. It was down 40% in our downtown corridor. And those numbers actually continue to go further down in this first quarter this year, with the exception of a bad one of our homicide rate, which is up. But last year's homicide rate was the lowest since 1954. We're still short police officers, but we have said rebuilding the ranks of our police officers is a huge priority of ours. 10 days ago, I went to a graduating class of the academy. We had 41 people graduate. It's the largest graduating class since 2017. We're expecting, last year we had 5,000 people apply to be police officers. This year we're on pace for 10,000 people to apply to be police officers or to apply to be. So people want to be police officers again in San Francisco. And the vast majority of San Franciscans believe in those common sense solutions and policies, and it's working.
What have been the easiest or hardest? What's been surprisingly easy or hard about making this happen? I'm sure there's things you came in and you thought, oh, this is going to be intractable, and something that you came in and is like, oh, this is just much more complicated than I expected.
I think I've never had somebody ask me about easy in this job. Usually people ask me what the hardest part is. But I think what we tried to come in with a new approach, and that was to collaborate across our departments, to collaborate across the supervisors. I mean, it's a notorious thing that the mayor and the 11 supervisors, our city council, are supposed to not get along. And I, in my first few weeks in office, I went around to every supervisor's office. I would just walk down the hall. We're all in the same hall. They're on one side of the building, I'm on the other. And I'd say, hey, how are you? And people were like, wait, what are you doing over here? You shouldn't be over on this side of the building. And I've continued that. I walked into a supervisor's office yesterday before I went to question time at the Board of Supervisors and handed a supervisor a birthday gift. And we're trying to build that collaborative spirit. We have department head meetings once a week, our large agency on Tuesday mornings at 9 a.m. The top 20 departments, we all gather at one conference room table, and we share out what's going on. That was not happening at City Hall for a long time. And so you're all at the business school, this just is common sense. This isn't, I didn't make stuff up, but we've brought this in-house. And then what I'd say about, on the public safety front or the police front, if I see a police officer on the street, I shake their hand. If I see a firefighter on the street, I shake their hand and I say thank you. Little things, I believe, go a long way. And so I don't know if that's easy, but it's common sense, it's simple, and it takes a lot of effort and work to do it, or not effort, but you have to keep doing it and really build that sense of we're all in this together. And I can't tell you, I've gone to every police academy graduation. I went to the firefighters graduation. I try to do that for the sheriffs, and just show that we're there we need them. I need them. The city needs them, and so.
So building on this question of building connections with different groups and different constituencies, a lot of the things that a city needs are just intensely political issues, like things about housing, transportation, land use. You're like, you don't need to tell me, right? So these are very intensely political questions. And they're also things on which cities tend to have a lot of interest group activity. Very intensely engaged groups of citizens or people have different stakes in it, very different views. And San Francisco is especially famous for being, as we would say in political science, an interest group rich environment.
Yes.
And so this means you have the challenge and opportunity to work with lots of different groups, some of whom you agree with you and some of whom disagree with you. And what have you learned sort of over the time about how to effectively work with all these different groups, whether it's business, nonprofits, unions, local community groups? How do you think about that structure of interest group activity?
Everybody does have an opinion in San Francisco. You are correct. I haven't thought about it that much, although all I will say is, so we have an incredibly difficult budget that we have to, I present a budget on June 1st. And if we do nothing, we will have in 4 or 5 years, we will have $1 billion+ budget deficit. We have reined in spending in our city over the last 15 months. We're going to continue to lean into that. And I started talking to people in October and November of last year about the budget problems that we have this year. And we have groups coming in from all over. Every interest group that you can imagine has come and sat in room 201 across from my office. And I've said to them for 7 months the same thing that I say to the API community, to the LGBTQ+ community, to the trans community. We have a budget crisis. And I so appreciate everything that you all are doing, but we all are going to have to take some of the pain. And I think the most important thing is that you say the same thing to everyone. You don't cater to this one group and say one thing, and then you walk into another room and you say something else. And I've said this about our public safety officials. We have to take pain there too. And so I think being honest, I walked into office in a very different manner than most electeds. First, I had never been in elected office. And really very few people of those interest groups supported me. No one thought I could win. And so I came in with a lot less baggage. And I don't care about what's next. I don't have political aspirations beyond this job. And people might not believe me. That's okay, you don't have to. But I don't. I really want to fix the city that I was born and raised in. I want to fix the city that I'm raising my 2 young kids in. My wife and I are and when you just have that focus in mind, I think you can be honest and you can be straight and you can take the daggers that are coming your way and do what's right for the city, and that's my focus.
So you mentioned coming to office and not having had elected office experience, but you had experience leading Tipping Point.
Yes.
And so I'm curious what you learned from that experience, leading, starting, and then leading that organization for quite a while. And what if that carried over into, being mayor?
Well, I mean, it's the people in this room. You all get this. You definitely don't want to just rely on City Hall to get things done. That would not have been smart. You can't just rely on philanthropy to get things done, and you can't just rely on the business sector. Like, they all need to work together. I think we're seeing that in real time with the Partnership for San Francisco growing up over the last year in San Francisco. We have a downtown development corporation that is growing up to help us really go after the Union Square and the financial district and get retailers and get businesses back downtown, and I know you'll be talking about that later today. So we need each other, and at Tipping Point we always looked at ourselves as the seed capital, the risk capital. Let's take shots on new approaches to solving issues of poverty, and then if it worked, then we'd say, hey, to mayors across the region, whether it was Mayor Liccardo or Mayor Lee or the Oakland mayor, we would say, here, this works, you should take it. The money is at the government level. And we always were partnering with both the government and the business. And now as mayor, I want to engage I want to engage all of you, and I want to engage the nonprofit sector, because we can't do it alone at City Hall.
How do you approach those regional, because many of the issues that a city faces, San Francisco is what, 1/8 of the Bay Area's population? Something like, depends on what you define the Bay Area as.
Right,
but it's,
right.
It's this huge deal economically, symbolically, culturally. It's a famous, famous city, but it's not even the biggest city in the Bay Area, actually. Right?
But
That's
it's
San
the
Jose.
best.
Yeah.
Just let's be clear. Sorry to my friends everywhere else.
Okay.
And I will also say, with the moment we're living in, you all know this better than I do. AI, the tech ecosystem, it's San Francisco now. It's not Sorry, it's not down here. Every venture firm has an office in San Francisco, has to. These companies are kind of re-centering themselves on San Francisco, and it's an exciting time to be in the city. I want to be very clear, though, because I know I'm in a business-friendly environment. I was on stage at an AI conference the other day, and it was funny, someone said I was pivoting when I said this. There's no pivot here. The most important industry to San Francisco has been, is today, and will be in the future, is tourism. And we love that we're the home of AI. We want to lean into that, but I just want to be clear. I say it everywhere. Tourism's our number one thing, which is why the public safety is so important. It's why we have to get people off the street and into recovery beds. It's why my third priority that I always talk about is making us a business-friendly city again around permitting, around small businesses and restaurants. And we have the best restaurants in the world, not just in the country, in the world, are in San Francisco. And how do we make life easier for small business, medium business, and big business? We want all of that in San Francisco. We want that revenue, that tax revenue in San Francisco. And I think those are the three things that apply to tourism, that apply to technology and businesses wanting to come back to San Francisco.
And actually tourism is something I wanted to talk about specifically, because I think it's interesting because people get a lot of information from around the country and around the world about San Francisco in a lot of ways. I mean, you could think in some sense, a fair number of people get, a few ads a day negative about San Francisco in their news channels. It's like this problem in San Francisco, that, and it just kind of like, how do you go about telling the story about what's going on in San Francisco and changing the narrative nationally, and is it different internationally? Or do you see it as distinctions, or how do you think about that problem?
People, I think back to one of your earlier questions, what was easiest, what was challenging. I think our biggest challenge, and I think we did this well in our first year in office, was changing the narrative about our city. We were punched for 3 or 4 years, and it's why I ran for office, because a lot of those criticisms were true. I could not explain to my 2 kids why they were seeing what they were seeing on the streets, and none of us could, and we sort of had become numb to it. But now I really fundamentally believe that we're getting better coverage nationally and internationally. People are hearing, San Francisco's on the rise, and it's because it's true. It's because of our restaurants and our arts and our culture and AI and tech, and hopefully it's because we have a board of supervisors and a mayor that's not looking to just be at war with each other all the time, but to fix the problems that we all know are real. And so I think, I don't know, I think what I'm hearing, and I hope you all are hearing when you're traveling, by the way, this felt like a foreign trip for me to come all the way down here. I really don't ever leave the city. I'm doing my first international trip actually to Shanghai and Seoul next week to visit our 2 important sister cities. I want to bring tours, I want to sell San Francisco in those 2 amazing cities. I want tourism coming back from those countries. So I think we're addressing the narrative. I think it is much more positive now. And what I would say is we had to start with ourselves. 2 years ago, San Franciscans, 22% of San Franciscans thought we were on the right track. I've seen, someone told me about a poll that was done just about 5 days ago, and it had 70% of San Franciscans thought we were on the right track. I don't think there's a city in the country that has a 70% right track number on it besides...
political polling in general. That's just not a common thing.
Yes, right. Right. So so it's working. Yeah. But every day we got to win. Yeah. Every day we got to win that battle. And frankly, I am far from satisfied. I told you about my experience this morning. Last night I was heading home late, or 2 nights ago, from the Bruce Springsteen concert. That was fun. I brought my 12-year-old to that, by the way. He was like, I took him a little bit to get into it, but it's okay. He appreciated it. Okay. I will say this, I didn't like what I saw on some of our streets. So I want everybody to know that we're doing better. but we have so much work to do.
That's interesting. What role do you see events playing in this? I mean, I remember seeing stories during the recent Super Bowl, like tourists like, I went to San Francisco and I was shocked.
Yeah.
It wasn't a hellhole or something. That was kind of the reaction. Or the upcoming World Cup or, conferences. Is this?
That's a great, thank you for bringing that up because, we had Media Row, or now I don't remember the new title is because it used to be called Radio Row. That's not a thing anymore. But we had, I think, 12,000 credentialed media in town, and the vast majority was positive. And we had people from the middle of the country saying, "I love your city; it's so beautiful," and so that was a huge win for us. And then we're going to always have our haters that just simply see San Francisco and reflexively say, "Oh, that's terrible. That place is terrible," because of the values or whatever it is. So we can't really worry about them. But so that helped us really turn the tide.
I want to turn in a different direction. So you mentioned AI earlier, and obviously it is true. I mean, huge flourishing of innovation in AI in San Francisco. And how do you think about making sure that the city is the place going forward where, you think about cities in the world that have these innovative industry after innovative industry or waves of changes coming through. And there's some cities that seem to do this well, some cities that seem to do that less well. And San Francisco's done this multiple times.
Yeah.
We keep doing it. Yeah, what do you think is the core of that, and how do you set up the city for continued success doing that with the next big thing? I mean, I know AI is a really big thing now, but
Well, I can go right to. I have one answer, which is what we've been really focused on around making sure that we create enough housing, enough educational opportunities, childcare, and making sure that not only are we supporting the AI industry, but everything that comes out of that, our restaurants, our arts, our cultural institutions. I believe firmly that our creative class is what has always driven San Francisco forward. And out of that comes these innovative ideas, whether it was the computer or the internet or now AI. It happens because of a really great ecosystem. And it's not just about tech employees, it's about all of our great cultural institutions. And for those to run, you need to make sure people can be housed, that they can go to great public schools. We are the first city in the country to provide opportunity and access to free early childhood care. I got some friends on the East Coast that are claiming that they're going after it. We've already done it in San Francisco. If you were a family of four making $230,000 a year or less, you qualify, or you have the opportunity to get free early childhood. It's going to save people up to $36,000 a year. If you're a family of four making $310,000, and we started that in January, if you're making $310,000 a year or less, you qualify for 50% off of that. And so you create that dynamic in our city. We keep young families, we keep those creatives staying in San Francisco. That helps drive our city forward. I had the honor of meeting Francis Ford Coppola yesterday, and he came in, he asked me a question. He goes, "Do you know who Jane Jacobs is?" And I was like, "Yep." My wife is, when I met my wife in New York City, we started talking about Jane Jacobs and Eyes on the Street and just how you need this dynamism on the streets. And Francis started talking about our neighborhoods, like North Beach. Our Jackson Square is up and coming, the Mission District. Ocean Beach, by the way, right now, out in the Sunset is thriving. Our Sunset at 9th and Irving is incredible. We have these neighborhoods. It's a great neighborhood. And those neighborhoods create that energy that we need. So we have to make sure our neighborhoods are thriving. Once again, this is where I'm learning how to be a politician. Safety, clean streets, getting people to housing and off the street and the recovery. Those neighborhoods always say, hey, there's still too many people suffering on my streets. I need more police officers walking the beat. So my job at City Hall, I fundamentally believe, is to do the basics, to allow our neighborhoods to thrive, and then you all and the business community and our entrepreneurs and our creatives, then they help our city continue to dominate in terms of what's next and what's on the cutting edge for the world.
But there's a potential irony here in that when you have flourishing business success and all sorts of new things being developed, and frankly, lots of people getting rich, doing these things, that often puts a lot of strain on particularly housing supply.
Yeah.
Like I remember when I was living in the city in the 90s, I can't remember which one of the local papers was, it had like a cartoon, it was like Stanford, the first completely gentrified city. And so the concern is that if you have these economic developments, it's great for a set of people, but it also can make the city not work for people who can no longer afford there. And this has been a repeated concern over the decades. Whenever there's a boom in San Francisco, there's people who are longtime residents or the children of longtime residents and who are like, we can't afford to live in the city that we know and love. How do we keep the character of the city the same while but you need the economic success at the same time? And how do you think about that as mayor?
First off, I don't think we should ever try to be the same or aspire to be the same. We're evolving, we're a dynamic city, we're changing. We need to continue to grow. And you're right, this affordability issue has been an issue for decades and decades and generations and generations. And this is where it's really frustrating to say that we're progressive. We're not. In many ways, we are not progressive because we don't allow housing to get built. And so we spent a lot of time in our first year in office focused on rezoning the west side and the north side to create more housing. And we weren't going crazy. We were trying to do it our way and not the Sacramento way. Sacramento was imposing this on all the counties in the state. But we were going from 4 stories on the west side to along our commercial corridors and near transit hubs, going up to 6 stories. 6. And it was like met with just this, don't change my neighborhood, but we're going to create more affordable neighborhoods. We're going to actually create more customers for our small businesses if we go to 6 or 8 stories along Irving or Judah or Clement. And by the way, this will take decades to see in action. And I'm telling you, I think we hit the sweet spot, because right now we are being sued by the YIMBYs for not going far enough, and the NIMBYs are also suing us. So we're getting it from both sides, so I think we hit the middle.
Okay.
So we need to build more housing. There's no question about that.
I mean, it's always struck me when I lived in the city, so I was in there in the mid-90s, and then I got a job in Chicago, moved to Chicago, lived in Lakeview. Chicago housing prices were vastly cheaper than San Francisco housing prices. And I also noticed the entire street north of me in Chicago, it was Briar, between Broadway and Belmont, Broadway and Clark in Chicago. It was all these old single-family homes. They were kind of decrepit, they were kind of worn down. And within the 3 years that I, and later my wife and I, lived in an apartment there, almost all of those were bought, torn down, and 3 flats were put in there. They tripled the housing density in this awesome neighborhood in Chicago. And I was thinking, it's like, that was inconceivable in the San Francisco that I lived in. And so how do you think about just the mechanics of getting housing built in the city? And I'm sure you've thought about this a lot. How do you think of what makes it possible to actually do it?
Well,
as opposed to in principle
first
do it?
it's zoning. So doing that is helpful. We've seen a lot of development down in Mission Bay and Mission Rock, around Chase Center and around the baseball stadium. And it was actually, there was an article in the San Francisco Chronicle by this incredible writer who talked about how it felt like Parisian, like this new neighborhood down there. I don't know if people agree with that, but
but my 17-year-old daughter goes up and hangs out there. She takes the Cal train up there to hang out in that neighborhood.
And there's lots of restaurants, and there's art galleries, and we obviously have these great stadiums, and there's great food. So I think about it as, once again, our job at City Hall is the zoning. We have, these macroeconomic factors, the cost of construction, the cost of labor, the cost of all of that. So, like, I can't. One thing that I hope everybody takes away from this. Also, I want to tell you this is that I can only control so much, and electeds can only do so much. And to remember that, and not to try to do everything or say you're going to do. Like, I'm going to just stay focused. And what I was able to do was the rezoning. Can I hit the cost of construction? Probably not. But actually, there was a group in my office today from the union sector saying they want to build a modular factory in San Francisco. Now, this has been talked about for years, and actually a tipping point. We built affordable housing. We built a building on Bryant Street for a fraction of the cost, under $400,000 a unit, and this was 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 7 years ago now. And at the time, it was close to $1 million a unit. And so we have to be willing to take some shots. Once again, I think this is helpful if the nonprofit sector takes it or the business sector takes it, and then we support it at the public sector. But I think about it as we got to create the incentives. We got to align the incentives, right? We got to create the zoning. And then I love if labor wants to come in and build, modular and disrupt how we get things built, because right now it's not affordable to build affordable housing.
Yeah. And it's interesting also that, it's striking that, you described it as being difficult in San Francisco, but if I look at the supply of housing in the Bay Area, and housing is partially very local, but it's also regional,
yes,
right?
Absolutely.
The supply. And if I look at where housing gets built in the Bay Area, San Francisco's added a lot of new housing, actually, right? Relative to some other communities in the Bay Area.
That's true.
No, this is relative.
Yep.
San Francisco has Redwood City, Mountain View, a few places, but then other places less so.
Yep.
And I'm curious how you think about this at a regional level.
I think about it as that's where our transit agencies and transit comes in. Like, we have to build along transit corridors. We got to get Caltrans working on it. We have this regional network of agencies. We have to make that land available for development. I think they're getting on board. BART's got land, MTC, they all have land. So I think, to your point, we have to do that. And we all have to invest in transit. We have a huge, important measure called Stronger Muni for All on the November ballot. We have a regional transit measure that we'll all be voting on. Transit's absolutely essential, so we get people because not everybody's going to be able to stay in San Francisco or San Jose or Oakland. We got to move people around really effectively.
But what if the transit authorities get into financial difficulty? Because
they are in financial
I know it's not a hypothetical.
Yeah, so we need help from the state. One thing we pushed hard on the governor. They came through with the transit loan. There's only one transit agency on the planet, apparently, that makes a profit, and it's the Tokyo subway line. Everywhere else, it's usually financed at the federal level. That does not happen in the United States. It is left to local municipalities to handle. It's becoming, I would say, too much for any one local municipality to handle, and so we absolutely need help. We need to think about it as a region. We need help from state, and we need help from the federal government. And it's just not in our DNA as a country, and we need to get there if we're going to fix permanently our transit issues.
I'm the economist side of me. I'm kind of a political economist. Actually, kind of thinks transit agencies should run at a loss because they're producing a public good of not congestion.
Yeah,
they're
that's
getting cars
okay,
off
but,
the road.
we have like I walked into office and our SFMTA had a $420 million budget deficit, not sustainable. Let's operate at a loss, but you can't operate at that big of a loss. Yeah.
So let's see, what else? There was a different question that was lurking in there. Sorry. Oh, yeah, that was it. Okay, so many things at the state and federal level matter and impinge on what the city can do, both in terms of opportunities to do things and in terms of constraints on the ability to do things. How do you think about your relationship with Sacramento and DC? And and that's a complicated thing.
Here we go. Here we go.
Yeah.
It's all coming. You did it so nicely too.
We discussed earlier that he knows how to not answer questions.
My philosophy is I'm going to control what I can control. Now, we have great relationships with our local electeds who represent us up in the state Senate and the state Assembly. I'm going to make a visit to Sacramento in the coming weeks to push for bills and funding that I think is important to us. We have a big city mayors, 13 of the biggest cities in California. We get together once a month, either in Zoom or we go to Sacramento together to push for, housing and homelessness funding or transit funding. So we work hard on that. We have Eileen Mariano, who's on my team. She's amazing at keeping us close with our state and federal partners. I talk often with our two senators who are doing the best that they can under some difficult circumstances. And we're not counting on a whole lot out of our federal partners at this time. So we gotta focus on ourselves and get our costs under control. We have this line that I look at, as 5-year budget projections, and we have to get revenue in line with our spending. We were, as a city, for so long using one-time funding to pay for ongoing support. And when you're in an environment like we're in right now, that is irresponsible. I think it's probably not responsible at any point, but it's definitely, we keep getting cut back. HR 1, healthcare cuts are going to be severe. Cuts to food access are going to be severe from the federal government. And so we have to really prioritize our spending, and we got to get in line with our revenue.
If all this goes well, what do you expect to see the city like in 5 to 10 years? What's your hope for what it's going to be?
I don't think we have to wait 5 or 10 years. I said this before, or I've said this before. When we are at our best, San Francisco is the greatest city in the world. There's simply no doubt in my mind. Everyone around the world's cheering for us. They love San Francisco, and they heard, oh, what happened? And now they're hearing, oh, we're on our way back. If we do the basics, if we get the basics right, we do the small things, we start doing the bigger things within a few years, we should be known as the greatest city in the world again. And I have no doubt that we can get there. Let's go, San Francisco.
So I'm tempted to ask what's the tough question I should have asked but didn't, but I won't ask that. I do have one final question that I want to ask. So, we're the Stanford Graduate School of Business here, but really we're also a school of leadership more broadly. And there's a lot of students who aspire to have career, obviously a lot of them want to go into business, but a lot of our students come in and they've worked in government. They've worked in NGOs, and some of them, they want to go back straight to government, either in career roles or in military careers or in elected roles. Some of them want to go into business for a while and then move back into government. Some of them want to shift across sectors over the course of their careers. What would you advise for those students here at the GSB and at Stanford who have those aspirations?
I'm tempted to make a Berkeley joke because I went
That's
to
fine.
Berkeley.
That's totally fine. That's her game.
No, listen, we have a couple of GSB members in our office right now. Ben White on our housing and economic development team, who gave me notes, and he's like, push the students to come work for us. So we'll take you at City Hall. Although I don't know how many students there are in here, but hopefully they'll hear this. I don't know. I think first off, if you're at GSB, you're on a pretty good path already. So you have it pretty well made. I always encourage young people to go try things. I think it's better to close doors than because you've got a lot of doors open to you if you've made it to this institution. So go out and try things. I mean, I worked on a presidential campaign, Senator Bill Bradley, right out of school. I mean, it was an amazing experience, knocking on doors and doing field organizing in Des Moines, Iowa for 10 months. And I went and worked at the Robin Hood Foundation in New York City, came back for grad school, started Tipping Point. Like, I did a few different things. And I think you just don't limit yourself. I don't know. I'm so old. 49. I'm thinking about what I should tell my daughter, who's 15 right now. But like, first, I want her to, like, you want them to pursue their passion and go out and see what interests them. But if you're in your 20s, let's say at GSB, like, go try stuff. Like, you don't have to have it all figured out right now, because that's not normal. I might have had it figured out at 27 or 28 with Tipping Point. I knew what I wanted to do, but I don't have many friends that were that as focused as I was, and that isn't necessarily a good thing. I'm babbling now.
No, I was going to say,
I don't know what to tell the students, except if you're here, go and work hard. And I would say this, I say this to everybody: do the little things well. Whatever job you're in, go do the little things well, because if you can do the little things well, then you can do the big things well. Because if you can't do the little things well, forget trying to do anything big.
Okay, I think that is a fantastic note to end on. And
Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.